Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. It's everything in bloom on the 8th time, most of which you've seen quite recently. But I have some surprises, some new ones that you haven't seen, and they're all going to get left until the end. There should have been 5, but there's only 3. 2 just didn't quite make it. Literally, they'll probably be open tomorrow or the next day, but oh well, we live in hope. But if they don't make it, they don't make it. It's the same sometimes where things sort of drop their last bloom a couple of days before the 8th, and then it doesn't work that way either. So anyway, I'm going to start around this side. I need to try and... This is my Dendrobium prima donna. It's a nobly type, and Ince has got a piece of this with buds that are getting close to opening now, and he's a bit worried that they're showing pink. Now mine's just about going over now. The cluster down there have sort of gone. You know, they go all papery when they as they drop, and then eventually look like that. But the pink tinges are on the petals and sepal tips, and they can vary from nothing to something, and sometimes quite a substantial little pink tinge. But they end up right on the end of the lip, just a tiny little bit there, and on the ends of the petals and sepals. And as I say, sometimes this blooms and the pink is very obvious, and other times it's missing completely. It varies quite a lot. And also, he was a bit worried that the blooms are supposed to be yellow and his buds don't look very yellow yet. From what I can remember on mine, the buds don't get their full colour until very close to opening. They literally look a creamy colour for most of their life, and then they just turn and then they open. So yeah, that's not going to be with us more than another couple of days. There's no more buds to come on that one, so that needs to start getting some new growths going at the base. Oh, it is. There we go. There's one there. I'm not going to get the whole plant out and dig around, but if there's one, there'll be more. I need to grow that on a lot better this year. That got stalled last year. It needs to get going a bit better this year. And I'm going to take some of these older canes off too. They're starting to shrivel now, so they've served their purpose. And then the Dendrobium alexandrae next to it, literally 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually may have even been in the last Everything on the 8th. I said these blooms are going to drop soon because they've lost their colour. Well, they have lost their colour, but they still haven't dropped. I'll put a pop-up on this. Well, I've got to put the plant names up as pop-ups anyway, but on this one I'll actually add when these blooms opened. They've been around an awful long time, but that's the good thing about the Latoria types. They do last an absolute age. And then moving on here, we've got the Encyclia cordigera, and this is a named clone, which all that means is that it's the original species. A load were produced from seed, and every now and again you'll get something comes up a bit different from seed sown plants, and sometimes they're different enough to be special. Sometimes they're different and poor. They're not as good. And some you just get an exceptional sort of bloom, and you can get that registered and named, yeah, and then its progeny can retain that name. But yeah, it's an attractive bloom. I don't know how long these are gonna last, but should have been 4 spikes on this, but 3 didn't make it. And 2 of the spikes, the bulb they were on didn't make it, let alone the spike. It seems to be okay, the plant now. There's no signs of any more rot. It's just sort of sitting there. I'm hoping that's going to start growing new growth soon with the better temperatures. Anyway, that's that one. And then we've got the little Dendrobium nobile type up here with the multicoloured blooms on allegedly the same plant, which I'm just going to let it go. If there's 2 separate pieces, because seedlings can get muddled up sometimes, you know, and you end up grabbing 2 or 3 to put in a pot and grow on and sell, and one of the seedlings from a different type gets stuck in there. But 2 distinct bloom types here. You know, there's this one, which is the majority, and then this one back here is just a single bud on a cane. There's another couple of buds close by, but not on the same cane. So that large cane at the back there just produced one bud, and the bloom is quite different. Quite different. You know, literally in the same shot you can see the difference. This one is nearly all pink, and this one's just got pink tips. So quite different. And as I go past, you miserable failure. That was hopefully going to be open today. It's very close, very close. But not quite, you know, not quite, just isn't good enough, sorry. Right, and the most of the other Cattleyas we've had quite a good look at recently. This is the one with a really long name. Siang Yu Red Pearl Red Dragonfly or something like that. Siang Yu comes up quite a bit. I think I've got 2 or 3 plants with that as part of their name. I suspect it's the identity of a nursery or hybridizer in the Far East, probably Thailand or Taiwan, something like that. And they put that on there as, you know, as part of their identification, like that. It might even relate to a person that owns it, you never know. But anyway, I suspect that's where that particular expression comes from. And then down here we've got the no ID. I don't need an ID with that, that's still... But talk about pot luck, you know. I mean, I don't know whether I bought that knowing what the blooms are going to be like, or whether I just got it. I can't remember. And then the Shin Fong Little Sun Young Min Golden Boy. You have to take a deep breath before you say that. Still looking good on this spike, and there's another spike up the back, another set of buds up the back. Right, that's those two. And then this one here is not playing ball. This is the Cattleya Little Lemon Drops crossed with Cattletonia Why Not, which does have a registered name now. And last time this bloomed, the blooms lasted a long time. This time they don't look like they're going to. But we'll have them while they're there. Probably one of my most attractive Cattleyas, that one. Really good stuff. And quite a prolific grower, shooting out in various directions. Looks like there's some more buds to come here, or bud, singular. The Bisei Meikei is on its last legs now. Quite a few of the blooms have dropped, or are in the process of falling. The colours are almost completely washed out, which is the way it goes. So these were probably the last to open. They've still got a bit of their colour left. But gradually, as they age, the colour gradually washes out until they're almost white by the time they drop, which is going to be very soon, and then hopefully it's going to start a mass of new growths. It's quite a large plant, you know, it ought to do something like that, didn't it? Right, the 3 Tolumnias that we've got out at the moment. We've got the Tolumnia Peach, this one. One of my favourites. What I like about this one is the variety on the blooms. If you look at this bloom here, it's plain. The lower area has got no spotting at all, and yet the one next to it has. And that makes that bloom more attractive in my eyes. You put the two together, you've got the plain one and the one with a couple of spots. And then the next one round's got a single spot. But if you look at that spot, it's on the very edge or nearer the edge, so it's got a ring round it. Whereas these spots have got a ring round them, but then the ring fades in with the rest of the coloration. So that's that one, looking good. There's another branch opening up here with a couple of buds on, a couple of blooms, sorry. Is that what I think it is? No. And then this one's got 2 branches coming. So it's going to be in bloom for some time yet. This is in fact a branch, and then it's got another branch up here. So there's quite a lot of branching going on this one, so it's going to be in bloom for some time yet. And then this is the Golden Ray Sunshine. I'll get there in a minute. Very similar to Tolumnia Peach in as much as the colours. It's the same set of colours, But until I got this one, this was my favourite. But now I think this one is, and a lot of it is to do with the size of the blooms. They are quite a bit bigger. And as Tolumnia blooms go, they would be considered a good size bloom. So again, these are branches we're looking at here. The other spike on the other, I mean, this is now two separate plants. The section in the middle died, leaving the two leads heading off in different directions, which when it's finished blooming, I'm going to unmount this and mount these either up together on a new mount or separately, because one's upside down and one's up the other way, and it's starting to look not right, as though I'm growing it badly. But we've got a little branch on this spike as well. Might actually take that spike off because that's the weaker part of the plant, which will leave us this one. And then the other one over here is the pink something or other. It's all in the colour, you know. Sunset pink. Get there in a minute. And again, this one's been out some time, and they're lasting well, and quite a bit of a colour changer. Does get paler as it ages. And what I like about this one is the two, what I like to think of as little wings, because you've got the three sections at the top, the large frilly bit at the bottom, and then you get these two extra little bits sticking out the side, and they've got very, very delicate markings on them. So that's that one. And over here we've got the new, I'll have to fight through the bushes now, the new Dendrobium Latoria type. There's repotting it with blooms in bud. Did exactly what was expected, and it blasted the unopened buds. But not all of them. I mean, this one's hung in there, and there's a couple over here that didn't blast. So we'll have a few more blooms to open, and as this is a new plant, I don't know how long these are actually going to last. But, you know, you can see the Dendrobium rhodostictum in that straight away. But you have to hold the blooms up to get that bird taking off effect. You know, when a bird sort of leaps off the ground and opens its wings to get some lift. It's the impression I get of them anyway. So that's that one. Ugh. And then coming round here, the two that only just made it, we've got the Primulinum. The clusters up here are gone already. And the few that opened a couple of days later down here, won't be long, only another couple of days, they're starting to get brown around the edge of the lip. That's how they show their signs of going. Yeah. So they don't last long. So I'm going to lose that nice fragrance now that I didn't know I had. As a consequence of giving up smoking, I discovered that, or that's what I believe anyway. And then the one behind it is the Aphyllum, that's doing exactly the same thing. You look at the lower blooms, they're dropping. They really don't last long. These type, these two go together, they're often open at the same time, and they come and go almost as quickly. They really don't last long at all, which is a shame, you know. But I mean, the attraction on these blooms is not in the lip, it's on the outside. That's where the colour and the patterning is. But no fragrance that I can detect on that one. But then we got a whole year to wait, growing them on at frantic pace to try and get the canes as large as possible, which we'll be working on soon. I think this one's doesn't belong to me anymore anyway. That's got 4 new growths so far, and that one up there has got 1 new growth tucked in behind the cane, so that it is coming back into growth. I'm hoping for more than 1. I mean, it grew 2 last year. Now come on, we don't want to go backwards. And then coming over here we've got the Dendrobium conico, which at the moment is the closest thing I've got to Victoria Regina, and it isn't. There is no substitute, but this has got Victoria Regina in it, which is where it gets its purplish blue colour. It isn't blue. And even Victoria Regina, the blooms are variable, and they vary from a light tone to a darker tone, and it doesn't matter how much variety you put into that. And I've just seen something very strange behind me. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much you put into it, whether they're lighter tones or darker tones. It's almost impossible to photograph or film Victoria Regina and capture the colour. Most people think, oh, those blooms are really nice, looking at pictures or looking at video clips of people that own them, and then one day they'll be somewhere where they see one for real, and then you see the true colour. It just doesn't seem to want to film properly. Right, that's that, and I'll end this section because I'm going to have a break before I get to the others because they're all over the place and I need to collect them together. We'll end on that one. I mean, you can't... It's still not fully open. I've still got buds here to open to fill in that little section there. And the Dendrobium senile is going to be my plant to put into the virtual orchid show for the Bournemouth Orchid Society. It's plenty mature enough for them to sort of think it's heading towards a specimen plant. They like all that sort of thing. It's a species, they like that sort of thing. And it's a good blooming. It's just a pity this section down here is a bit vacant, of blooms I mean. There's no reason why this won't push some new growths out this year. And then next year there will be blooms in that section, but not this year. So anyway, that will be my entry. Right, I'm now going to have a break, get myself a coffee and get the few surprises together, and we'll carry on in a minute. Okay, so what we've got is some additions to the Tolumnia section, which is good. Got this one here. Now, this is a excuse me, a real colour changer. It's red butterfly. It has bloomed before. That's not a particularly good spike, but strictly speaking, that's one of my rescue Tolumnias. It goes back quite a while now and new people wouldn't know, but my Tolumnias got hit really bad by scale, and it was in the days where I wasn't prepared to use systemics, and some of my Tolumnias got actually taken down because they get right in at the base of the leaves and chew the stem basically, and you lose the plant or the fan, especially on the new growths. I finally got rid of them. I mean, there's still an odd one now and again manages to survive, but yeah, so that's really in a rescue state. So it's not its best spike it's ever had, but nonetheless, at least we've got some blooms again. I'll go in close. The trouble is on the screen I can't see whether I'm still in focus. Probably go out of focus as I get close. But so very attractive bloom on the small side, but nonetheless very good. And then this one is a first time bloomer, and although I can't say definitely, I'd say this is a serious colour changer, because this is called Jarrac Rainbow Soft Pink. And in my book, that ain't no pink, that's red. But I suspect it's going to fade to pink. So this is its first blooming. This is one of the Christmas crew, I think, the ones that just weren't very good plants. So first time blooming, attractive, good splash of a good deep colour at the moment. And if we have another look on the back, if you look at the picture, if that's the colour it's going to fade to, it will also be attractive at that point. So it's almost got two lives, you know, its initial opening colour, stop waggling, followed by its faded colour. Again, I'll try and get in close, but the trouble is when I'm looking at the screen I can't see the point where it goes out of focus, so I just have to go in slowly and then back up a bit. So that's 2 out of the 3 surprises, and as I said, there are 2 miserable failures that didn't quite make it, but everybody's favourite is back. Mr. Hairy has just opened some blooms, literally. Yesterday they were just starting to open. So Mr. Hairy's back. Now my memory when this blooms, because I've had 2 plants, so this is like its second instance, a replacement for the one I lost. But the one I lost did actually bloom, and this one bloomed last year a bit, and now it's bloomed again. My memory always tells me that the blooms are bigger than this, and then when it blooms I sort of think, oh, these blooms are small this time, when that's just how they are. It's my memory thinks they're bigger. Fragrant, but not yet. It's a sort of honey type fragrance, very pleasant, but you've got to get quite close. It's not a strong fragrance. But who knows, with my extra sensitive nose, it might drift a little farther from the plant this time. Now when these open, there is a gorgeous green shade on the inside of the lip. Beautiful apple green. That fades, and also the colours of the bloom gets deeper. So this darkens, but the lip goes lighter. So yeah, Mr. Hairy's back. And I wasn't sure I was going to get any blooms on this. As I say, when I got it home and I mounted it, it turned out to be several small plants instead of the one big plant that I thought I'd bought. But nonetheless, the smaller pieces are growing on. There's even another bud coming over here. But it always looks as it's worse this time of year. Because it is a deciduous plant at the end of the day. And I've seen some of these plants in full bloom with not a leaf on. And it just looks like a tarantula with yellow bits hanging out. As though it's got some sort of parasite growing out of it. But yeah, this is its look. This is what it looks like after the leaves go. Hairy tarantula legs. And this one is settling down. It's getting close to being truly seasonal now. And I think this year, most of the leaves that are on there are going to fall in the not too distant. The leaves on this one might stay for a while because this is a growth that pushed up in the winter time, which is unusual, but you know. So with this one, I don't give it a full winter rest, or I didn't this year, on the grounds that it still had some growths pushing on, and I didn't want them to stall. This one, and one of these tucked up in here grow in the winter time, which means they haven't grown to their full potential size. And they have finished growing now. They've all got terminal leaves. But nonetheless, they're probably big enough to bloom next year. So they might, even if they only have one or two. So yeah, it's back. Love that one. And I'll add on the end, I had a thought this morning. I do have them occasionally. Oh, I've missed one. Oh, we missed the little Sarcochilus. Right under my nose. Of course I've missed it. Oh, I'd forgotten all about that. That's my Hartmannii species. This is going to have something done to it when it finishes blooming. The last time we looked at this, I said that this pot is staying far too wet. Well, I've done the usual trick and ventilated the pot. And within a day of doing that, the bottom 2/3 of that pot was black where it was so wet, and it's dried it. So now I can water it again. I mean, I even tried to put some moss on the top to encourage some root growth, which doesn't work because the top of the pot dries out really fast, but the bottom was staying wet. So we've now got a pot that evenly dries, but I need to do something with that. It's not happy in that pot because I know it's bloomed, but it's not growing well. And looking at some pictures, this is not a brilliant spike. It's not nowhere near as large as it could be, but then the plant's still small. Anyway, what I was thinking about, back to that bit, sorry, I'm scanning the whole place now thinking I've forgotten something else, but I haven't. Oh yes, I have. Oh, I don't believe, what a memory. Two, in fact. Oh dear, more coffee. Well, I've made the coffee, I just haven't drunk it yet. We've still got this in bloom, the Ranchostylus gigantea. With a very poor spike on a very poor looking plant, but nonetheless it is actually in bloom. We shouldn't totally neglect it, should we? Those are fragrant, but it's just a very poor spike. The spike even started to die, leaving some of the blooms on. So not a good blooming at all, but nonetheless it's a bloom. And let's get this one out of the way because tucked behind it, my epidendrum is coming out again. I'll just have to point the camera because I don't want to get the plant out. But yeah, just literally the first couple of blooms have opened. So we've got that nice splash of orange to come. It's a real mess, that plant. But nonetheless, it is pushing spikes out on kikis. If you see there, right at the top of the cane, it's grown a kiki, which is now blooming. And then this is a new cane behind it that does go back to the base. This is a bloom spike on a kiki as well. So it's doing strange things and it's not a happy plant, but it's happy enough at least to try and bloom. So yeah, I completely forgot that. It's because it was hiding behind these things. These things are down here nowadays because the the brighter lights around now. They don't take to the light. Well, not too much of it anyway. Right, back to where I was. I was supposed to be doing a talk at the Wessex Orchid Society. Probably the Saturday just gone, or maybe this Saturday. No, it wouldn't be this Saturday, it's Easter. Anyway, sometime around now I was supposed to be doing a talk. And once this virus thing caught a hold, cancellations started coming in. And initially it was, we're cancelling the April meeting. Well, then that got extended to we're cancelling all meetings for the foreseeable future. Probably well into the summer as well. So I said I'd get my talk finished for the May meeting. Well, then the May meeting got cancelled again as well. So I said, well, what I could do is put my talk together as a video, like I normally do, but put a soundtrack on it, and then you can email the link to the YouTube version, and then everybody's got a video to watch. That was the initial plan, and I'm, whatever, 3/4 at least of the way through finishing that talk off. But I've actually changed my mind. I'm going to put that talk to one side and finish it off for a later time, so that I've got what I call a proper talk, you know, where I can project it up and stand in front of it and do it as a meeting talk for later. So I'm just going to put that one to one side, and I'm going to replace it with something similar to what we've just done, because I need to get it done over the next couple of weeks. And in the next couple of weeks we've got some things like my Dendrobium nester, and my anosmum will be coming out. My chrysotoxum will be coming out. I've already got some of my annual dendrobiums coming out. And I'm sort of known at the Orchid Societies for being a bit of a collector of dendrobiums. I mean, I haven't got a huge collection by any means, but they are one of my main interests, shall we say. I've also got some good cattleyas out at the moment, yeah, and tolumnias. So I thought I'd do a talk based on hand holding the camera like I am now, filming some plants, yeah, and putting the soundtrack on like I normally do. And I'll intersperse that with putting the camera on the tripod and talking to people like I do in the Sunday chat, which makes it a little bit more interactive, which I think will make it a bit more interesting to be looking round some plants in bloom, have a chat about how I look after them, have a look round the grow room itself and the kit I've got and the gadgets, you know, things like that, and try and make it just a general look round to see what's going on and a chat about some of my plants and how I look after them, which I think would be more entertaining when you're sitting at home watching the video rather than me actually being there. So that's my idea. You can say what you think. And I'll probably take no notice at all. But yeah, I haven't finalised how I'm going to put that together yet, but the basic principle is going to be a bit like a bit of a care guide, looking at some plants, looking at some blooms, and looking round the grow room. I mean, it needs to be about 40 minutes long. You know me, I can do 40 minutes relatively easily. And it will be in sections as well. You know, we'll have a tolumnia section, we'll have a cattleya type section, you know, looking at some that are out now. You know, and just put something together that's got some entertainment value with some of me in it, to make it seem more interactive, for people to sit at home and watch instead of actually being at a meeting. So that's my idea. And yeah, I've even kept a few clips from videos not that long ago to become part of this, because when they're filmed doesn't matter. It's the collective element that will become the video that everybody sits down and watches, if you see what I mean. Yeah, so the fact that the clips are done on different days or even different weeks doesn't matter, and nobody needs to know. Apart from the people from Wessex who watch my videos, and I've just told everyone. But it doesn't matter. It's just a collection of orchids, a chat about them, and I think that'll be quite nice for people stuck at home to have something aimed at them, done for them, like a talk, like a presentation talk, but in video form for them to sit at home and watch at their leisure. So that's that, and that's everything in bloom on the 8th, including forgotten ones tagged on the end. That's nothing new, that happens nearly every time. We'll end on looking at that. Mr. Hairy. Pretty nice. I don't know how close I can get, but the plant is at least still quite close. See you next time.